Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Liverpool Reaction and American LFC podcast. As always, I'm joined by Coach Ralph, my co host. And this episode, we are going to be talking about three things. They're kind of big, though. We are going to be talking about the transfer market. We are going to be talking about our Champions League match against Lille, a little bit more in depth than we did our last episode. And also the Ipswich game, which is in the Premier League on Saturday or Sunday. I believe it's Saturday. So, Coach, good morning as always. And as we kind of look at the transfer market, I did a little bit of research, and as I kind of look at some of our needs, I have left back, I have right back, a center back, a right winger, and a striker.
That's a new team, Salim.
Well, Coach, here's a good thing. We don't need a midfielder, I don't think. I think left back, we've talked about it a little bit. Robertson is, is on the other end of his bell curve, so to speak. He was an amazing signing from Hull City. He was integral to our team, gave our team a little bit of bite. And, but as the years wore on, Father Time is undefeated, right, Coach?
Maybe. But if I could just backtrack a little bit, because for me, if Liverpool was going to sign anyone, I would probably say it's a midfielder. And we're talking about at this point of the season. But overall, what I think is interesting from a Liverpool perspective is the Reds are having a great season, as we all know, topping both leagues that they're in. And there's still a long way to go, so there's a lot to be determined. But I'm seeing a lot on the internet and hearing a lot on the radio about Liverpool fans who are unhappy because nobody's been signed. And I think that this kind of signifies the way that the modern game has become with transfer windows.
Yeah.
And this notion of which team is going to win the transfer window. And I think that if you're looking at the last transfer window, which was the summer, I guess Liverpool didn't win the transfer window because they didn't really sign anybody.
You got to argue, though, they did great with the exits. With Carvalho and Vandenberg, they got great money for those two guys. They did some good business getting money in the club, though.
Right. Look, as everybody in the dog seems to say, football is a business. So it's a business. So there were players sold. There were players sold for good money. So there's no denying that. But I think my focus is more in terms of the team, how they're doing currently, and what might happen down the road. And I think there's this narrative. I'm here in FSG country in Boston, and they are the current owners. And it seems like they're under a lot of pressure and getting a lot of flack right now. I think some of it over the three contracts that need to be resolved is justified because clearly something within the organization has been overlooked. But I'm not going to go into that today. When it comes down to the transfer policy, I think Liverpool, as it stands currently, what they want seems reasonably clear in terms of they're not just going to sign any old player.
Sure.
I think that the overall hope and plan is that they balance bringing players through from their academy. And yes, they do some of the things that Manchester City and Chelsea do in terms of selling players. So Van der Berg, who played against us this weekend for Brentford, he was sold for good money. Mm-hmm. He is an academy player. And then you've got others around like Harry Wilson and Nico Williams and so on and
Right.
so forth. So Liverpool do their share of that, but I think there's also a hope that they can produce 3 or 4 players to be functioning members of the first team squad. And so one YouTube podcast that I was looking at, the narrative is, well, Gomez is injured, and so that leaves us with 3 central defenders. Kwanzaa, I would agree, lacks a bit of confidence right now, but I think he's a good player.
Yeah.
And so they want to sign, like, who can we sign? Who can we sign to be the 5th centre back? And they're looking around, like Manchester City are going badly, so of course they're splashing the cash again, which is typically what they do, even though they've got a fantastic academy. I mean, like, that is just the way. Manchester United are making noises about signing players, and they're supposedly broke. So why aren't Liverpool doing it? And so, looking at the situation, FSG haven't been perfect. But having said that, they still have the club in a situation where Liverpool Football Club is competitive.
Right.
They are top of both divisions. It doesn't mean that they're going to win both divisions. And if they don't, then the narrative will become, oh, well, FSG didn't sign any players, and this is why Liverpool didn't win the league or the Champions League, the League Cup, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, that to me is just sport. I don't see why any owner should just spend money willy-nilly, as it were. And if you look at the previous owners of Liverpool, the first American ownership, like, they took the club to the brink of going out of business. So I kind of understand why they aren't just prepared to sign any old player. I mean, but hypothetically, just say, for example, if Liverpool was to sign Mark Gahey from Crystal Palace right now.
Yeah.
Mark Gahey, is he going to be signing to go straight into the first team, or is he going to be a squad player? Whichever way you look at it, it potentially causes a problem. And I think that that's something that's better sorted out during the summer months rather than during the season, with the one exception being that the manager has very strong feelings about it, that he wants a specific player to come in, say like Van Dijk did, because he was a January signing. I mean, like, Van Dijk wasn't coming in to be a squad player.
Right.
Yeah, Klopp knew what the role was. They've been chasing him for a long time. He was right in the team, and yes, it strengthened the team. So I think that for a club like Liverpool, I think having 4 central defending options is legitimate. And yes, one of them's injured. So how do you build your squad at that point? I think you have to have players within the squad who are versatile and can plug in to that position.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we as Liverpool fans are scarred by the season when the total central defending unit went down. It was just one of those things, and it took the manager a while to sort it out. And in the end, how did he sort it out? He had to go to his academy,
Mm-hmm.
and it worked. So maybe I'm kind of more of a traditional football thinker in terms of, okay, you sign what you need. You don't just sign for the sake of it. And then ultimately, sometimes, like, you do have to look towards youth. And yes, it's a gamble. I mean, but transfers are a gamble as well. So I don't know who Liverpool could legitimately sign right now to plug that 4th gap. And it's kind of a combination of what does the manager want, and then who can they legitimately buy at reasonable money. I mean, so for example, coming back to a Mark Gahey, I'm not quite sure how much he's rated for. I have a feeling it's like 60, 70 million.
Yeah, about 70, yeah.
So if Liverpool go for him now, are they going to put another 20 million on him? and try to get a higher price. And so, I think the whole situation is complicated. And I don't think Gomez, I mean, like, he's probably out for a little bit longer, but I think his return will be, in the next few weeks.
Yeah. Slot said weeks, not months. This
Right,
week. Yeah.
right. And I mean, even if it was months, Liverpool do have players that can fill in at the back. So, for example, Endo.
Yeah.
I heard one stat that he's played more games in the back four than he has in midfield. That's over his entire career.
Mm-hmm.
So he's already shown that he can plug in. Gravenberg, Klopp, sorry, not Klopp, Slot. I'm getting mixed up here. Slot did something creative against Forest where he put Gravenberg at the back. So that is an option. And if he was to do that from the start of a game, then you'd have to say, okay, so you're taking a key player from midfield, you're putting him in the back. Can Liverpool cover for that in their team? And possibly they can by putting McAllister there. So I don't feel that from a team chemistry point of view that you just keep signing players. And so I would be supportive of Liverpool, whether it's FSG or Richard Hughes and company who are the directors, that they buy sensibly for the team. Because I think this particular year, where it's year one of Arne Slot, I expect them to be very active this summer in terms of the manager will know at that point who does he want and who does he feel is maybe better moving on. So obviously Darwin had a great weekend and he made his mark, and I think he's a good player. But does the manager want to keep him on for future years? We will know next summer. We will know clearly by then, because maybe he moves on or maybe he stays. And if he stays, it's because the manager wants him.
Yeah, Coach, when I gave you that list, that's kind of the list that I'm looking at overall, not necessarily for January. I think, when you mentioned Van Dijk, Coutinho, the people that did come in January, these are people that we were chasing throughout the summer as well. So a perfect example would be like if we signed Zubimendi, that would be kind of fall in line with the Van Dijk type of transfer, the Coutinho, people that we were chasing all summer and didn't happen. So when we look at the team long term, I think those are the positions that we are going to need to be addressed, assuming Trent goes and Mo goes. What's interesting about this transfer market is the excitement on it. But from a market standpoint, there's one window, there's 1 month to strengthen your team, and everybody that is a seller has the advantage here. It's a seller's market in January. So this is where people are shopping with their pockets versus FSG's pockets for players. Of course, it's exciting to get a new player in. Of course, it's exciting to win a transfer market per se, but the results are on the field.
Right.
And I when you look at FSG, they're not going to be careless with their money. And although that might be a little boring, it is fiscally responsible. It keeps the club in good standings fiscally, and also gives them the opportunity to strike when there is an opportunity. So,
Right.
when you look at English players or players that play in the Premier League, they're proven commodities, so to speak. So, when you look at a Mark Gahey, a Anthony Robinson, these types of players can perform in the Premier League, which means that their price goes up just a little bit because of that. And in the January market, then their price goes up a little bit more because it's a 1 month window where teams like City, for example, maybe if Nottingham Forest had a little bit more money, these are the teams that want to strengthen to make sure that they are in the top four, competing, and have something to build on for next year, because it's important from that standpoint. However, when you're talking about revamping a team, that's when the summer window is important, to get them in as early as possible, to get them in training, to get them bedded in, to get them culturally, what's the word I'm looking for? Culturally settled in. That's when it's important. So revamping a team in January is silly. Now, Coach, however, like the list that I gave you for the summer, so left back, right back, center back, right wing, and striker. Is there anything? I think I agree with you that, if we were to strengthen our position in the January transfer window, assuming a good deal comes along or an affordable deal comes along from a buyout clause, I could see midfielder being important. Gravenberch has been playing nonstop, and giving him a rest here and there would probably be a good idea. So when you look at the January transfer window versus a summer one, are you looking at a midfielder for the summer as well, or is it just now to make sure that Gravenberch has a break? How do you see that?
Well, if you look back to last summer, where, as we all know, there wasn't much activity by Liverpool in terms of signing, the only area that they tried to make a significant effort, and arguably had done for the last couple of years, was in some kind of holding or defensive midfield position. And so that, to me, would appear to be that if they're going to sign a player, that is the player, that they're going to go for. And the only exception to that, and if you look at Liverpool's business in recent years, they will go for signings where, for example, Diaz. They signed Diaz in January because they were a player that they wanted to sign. Ultimately, they were thinking of the summer, but then Tottenham made a strong bid for him. So they went in and they signed him early. So that is the only other case that I can see them signing a player. I think that their priority is that kind of a player. Zubamendi, it's being said now that he's going to go to Arsenal next summer. But would Liverpool still want him after what's happened last year?
Yeah.
We aren't party to that because you really don't know what the contact was between the parties and the way that it ended. I mean, word is it was amicable, but they're going to say that anyway. So if Zubamendi is out of the realms of possibility, who else is out there that's kind of comparable at the right money and available? And the answer is likely to be nobody.
Right.
So the only other signing that they're going to make would be kind of an opportunistic kind of signing for any position. So I guess you could put Chiesa in that bracket. And Chiesa, to me, feels like a signing of a superb player, but one with a lot of question marks over his head in terms of injury and fitness and what have you, like Thiago was. And so far, it feels that he's kind of lived up to the question marks. I mean, if he was to have a clean bill of health and a clean run, I mean, he would be a tremendous signing at a bargain price. But I think the question marks remain. So yeah, I mean, I don't see Liverpool doing much first team business during January. Yeah. But I think the list that you kind of presented earlier in the podcast, I think there's a lot of legitimate consideration for the summer. But right now, I think that if you were to pin the manager, if you were to pin the recruiting department at Liverpool down, who do we need to sign for the run-in? I think that they'd be looking for a holding midfield player. And the thing that makes it difficult is if it's a worst case scenario, say Liverpool don't win the league or the Champions League or anything like that, then everything becomes, oh, well, they didn't sign anybody. And so, Yeah, I feel listening to a lot of Liverpool fans, that they're a little bit over the top, in terms of we need to be signing players. I think that we need to be signing the right players, the ones that the manager needs, and the ones that are going to legitimately help the squad rather than just go out and sign any old player.
Yeah, no, for sure. And Chiesa was a gamble, and the price was right. Juventus was clearly trying to get him off their books. It was an opportunistic buy, and with the understanding that, hey, he has had injury concerns, an injury history, but if he, like you said, gets out of that, then we've signed a 26-year-old who, 4 or 5 years ago set the world on fire. So we know the capabilities of him, but that was a gamble, a good gamble. I think it was 14. What was it, 12 million, 14 million? It wasn't much, relatively speaking. Coach, the central midfielder, as we kind of look around the Premier League that might be available, you don't really see much from a standpoint that a player that is not integral to their team. I mean, when you look at Chelsea, man, United City, we're not going to do business with them, generally speaking. Tottenham, we're probably not going to do business with. But is there anybody else that you see out there that potentially would be available? Because I had some talks with some people about Wharton from Crystal Palace, and I was like, come on, like that's a joke. They're I think he's being quoted in the $40 million range, and I'm like, he's not even that impactful at Palace for us to want him at our club. Not saying that he can't develop and become a good player, but these types of risks are not risks that Liverpool take, and we have to understand that as fans. And I think it's also shows that the team thinks about what they do, and they don't react. When you look at Chelsea and bringing in a ton of players, and how the heck are they going to mold them all together, and all this and all that, and yeah, it's exciting, but it's not gonna win you games. That's not really the whole purpose of a transfer market. It's to strengthen your team, to keep going, and to make sure that you get the right type of player in your team that fits in the culture, that fits with what you want to do. Not only a good player, but a good attitude, a good lad, so to speak. So it's very interesting how this transfer market works, and it is a market. Like, it is a market. So we got to keep that in mind. It's not just you can just go in and pay what you want, because then you have financial fair play that you have to kind of deal with, and then you have to get people off your books. For example, Newcastle was potentially in a bit of hot water, and were offering us Anthony Gordon supposedly in the summer. So the fact that you can get in these situations where you have to offload players you don't want to just puts you in a bad spot. And the fact that our team does not do that, our club does not do that, you have to tip your hat to that and understand that is actually, you're putting yourself in a power of position versus a power of weakness when it comes to financial fair play.
Yeah, Liverpool just don't have those issues, and you've mentioned Newcastle. And I don't know where they're at right now, but a player like Guimaraes at Newcastle, because it's been rumored, that they might be a player that maybe that they don't want to sell, but they might have to sell him,
Right.
because of the finances,
Yeah.
And PSR and what have you. I mean, like, certainly for midfielders, like, there don't seem to be an awful lot of options out there. You could say somebody like Gibbs White at Nottingham Forest, but he's not the position. He's not the kind of midfielder that Liverpool are looking for.
Right.
Adam Wharton, I'm not totally familiar with him, but he's clearly a player that's highly rated within the business, as it were.
Yeah.
But he's not played much this year because of injuries. So, so like, they're not going to sign him. So, Yeah, as I said earlier, I don't really see Liverpool doing business during the January transfer market unless somebody pops out of the woodwork. Not necessarily in midfield, but it's just a player that they might want in the long term, and then the money is good.
The only player, coach, that I see that would fit into what we want and what we need, but there's no way that we'd get them, is Bruno Guimaraes from Newcastle. Like, he would slot in great, but he's integral to what they do at Newcastle, and he's a very good player. So that's not going to happen, So, but it's those kinds of players that we kind of, as fans, like, clamor for. But realistically, it'd be like somebody coming to our team and saying, "Hey, we want Cody Gakpo, we want Gravenberch." It's just not going to happen. We're not going to get rid of those players, and nor should the other teams that the other clubs around the Premier League. They're not going to get rid of their best players, nor should they. So, it's an interesting phase. It's exciting. I mean, I'm on Twitter every day looking at what Fabrizio Romano's saying, and but it is what it is. Coach, transitioning to the game against Lille. So, I was listening to the Anfield Wrap yesterday as I was kind of running some errands, and it was very interesting how they were saying that this is the game that they'd also like to see rotation, kind of like we talked about, but also we're kind of thinking that if they win this game, then the game against PSV, they can leave a lot of players at home. And it's wrapped up for the most part. That would get us at 21 points with one game to go. That would guarantee us a first or second slot in the table. So there is a little thought of maybe you go ahead and get this one out of the way, and then a big rotation at PSV. We are in the kind of head that we could probably put a very competitive team on, flipping the squad, making 7-8 changes. However, there is some thought that maybe we could put this to bed.
Right. I mean, I saw a stat on the BBC today, and they're evaluating all of the teams and their chances of qualifying top 8, and then the next bracket to make the playoffs, and then elimination. Liverpool's the only club that has 100% guarantee that they're going to qualify right now.
Okay.
And that's with 2 games left. So I think that they can rotate a lot for this game, because even if they were to lose it and then they lose against PSV, Liverpool are still going to qualify top 8. So I guess the only downside is obviously losing a game, can have a negative side to it too.
Right.
But it'll be very interesting to see what the manager does. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think you pointed out correctly that, I think Lille are actually 8th in the table, aren't they? So it's an important game for them. Because they will want the result. They are doing they're doing well in their own domestic league. I believe they're 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at the roster, they have a lot of familiar names in their roster. There's Angel Gomez, who's currently in the England squad. I'm sure he'll want to do well. And then there's a whole ream of players who have done well, say at Champions League or international level. You've got, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, the ex-Barcelona central defender. Is it Umtiti?
Who is it?
Is it Umtiti?
I'm not sure.
Samuel Umtiti.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
He was at Barcelona. There's Thomas Meunier of Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a player that's being looked at by by a lot of clubs in Europe right now, the Canadian Jonathan David.
Yeah.
So along with Gomez, I mean, like those two are highly recruitable, if that's the right word, for top European clubs. And then there's a whole range of players that played in the Premier League. Vito Manone played at Arsenal, and then there's the former Everton player Andre Gomez. Bentalab, who played at Tottenham, so they clearly have a very competitive squad,
Mm-hmm.
and overall they're doing pretty well. They're doing pretty well. I think the results so far in the Champions League show them to be competitive, but they don't kill teams that they play either. So it's shaping up to be a competitive game for Liverpool. The question is, how strong will Arne Slot put out a team for the particular game?
We'll see. We'll see. There are talks out there that he really believes in winning every game. I mean, I think every coach does, but they have a lot of plate spinning, so to speak, that they have to kind of consider. Muscle fatigue, fixture list, where they are at the table. So there's a lot of things that go into it, and we'll see. We'll see. Not sure. I thought rotation would make sense, but after kind of reading what Slot's been saying, I can kind of see him going for the kill shot and making sure that they're in that first or second spot. Regardless, they're qualifying. They're 6 for 6 in the Champions League. And then when we look at Ipswich over the weekend, they have some players, Liam Delap, they have Omar Hutchinson. They've had some great results against Chelsea and Tottenham. So although the team is struggling and got lambasted by City yesterday, they are a team that can cause problems. They gave us problems in the first week. And Coach, when you see this game, is this a game where we overrun them with talent, or is this going to be more of a park the bus type of situation? Because I didn't get a chance to watch City's highlights yesterday. However, City put 6 on them, I think by the 60th minute or so. So not sure what happened there, but when you look at this game, how can we ensure that it's maybe not a nervy ending, kind of like this past weekend?
Well, I did watch the Ipswich Manchester City game, and I was very impressed with Ipswich. I thought that they were going toe to toe with Manchester City, and then Manchester City scored. And to be honest with you, after that point, it looked like Manchester City games from previous seasons were basically all of a sudden, like they're overrunning the opposition. And so my impression of Ipswich, certainly in that opening phase, was that they've come on a fair bit from, say, the start of the season.
Mm-hmm.
They have some very good players. I was impressed with Delap up front, Hutchinson as well, who you also mentioned. And I thought they looked pretty solid. They were missing Calvin Phillips because he couldn't play, and I don't know how much of a factor that was once they started to get overrun. Because that's where they did look deficient, and I think most teams would against Manchester City.
Yeah.
So my feeling about this game is that Ipswich will be a team that can give you a tough game, and the longer that they can hold out against you, it'll become tougher. And I think one of the problems that Liverpool have had is that they don't score early goals, and so then the game becomes more difficult. And even though historically the Reds are renowned for late goals, and it happened again against Brentford at the weekend, it would be nice to see them maybe get an early goal, and that kind of calms everybody down. Because, I mean, just say hypothetically, Liverpool hadn't scored against Brentford at the weekend and it did end up a 0-0 game. All of a sudden, everybody's saying, oh, well, Liverpool didn't play well. And actually, I thought Liverpool played pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, again, I'm getting a lot of feelings from Liverpool fans, that they don't give credit to the opposition. I mean, Brentford played well against Liverpool. They defended well and they looked dangerous when they attacked. Nottingham Forest, the first half against Liverpool, I mean, Liverpool couldn't get in the penalty box. I mean, that's how well that they defended.
Mm-hmm.
Manchester United played well against Liverpool. Newcastle, okay, the goalkeeper made his error or his misjudgment, but it was a heck of a finish, to tie the game up. So sometimes you've just got to say, look, the opposing team has some quality or a good game plan. And so it's not always going to be straightforward. And this isn't a Liverpool team. It's a very good Liverpool team, but they're not dominant, they don't go out in every game and then the opposition doesn't get a kick, it's certainly not like that. And I think historically, I would compare the team to the Liverpool team of 2008-09, when probably that season Liverpool were the best team, but Manchester United won the title because Liverpool drew too many games.
Yeah,
and they only lost twice the entire season, but they drew too many games. I mean, they got the double over Manchester United that year, but they didn't get the title. So for me, it's a very similar team. The only thing that they have over that 08-09 team is that they have considerably more depth.
Mm-hmm.
Current Liverpool team has more depth on that side. So yeah, it'd be nice to see us get an early goal or two against Ipswich, and that kind of relaxes the team, and more critically, maybe relaxes the crowd, because everybody is so anxious to see the team get the title again, and especially because unless we have another COVID outbreak or something like that, there'll be fans there this time. So I kind of get that, but at the same time, as I keep saying, there's still an awful long way to go. There's some quality opposition that we're coming up against, and sometimes you got to recognise that. And I think Ipswich will pose their own problems.
Coach, when you kind of look at these two games from a prediction standpoint, score-wise, what are you seeing potentially could happen in the game with Lille, score-wise, and understanding that there's a lot of question marks as far as the lineup goes, but I'm going to put you on the spot with that one, as well as Ipswich. What do you think the scoreline will be in those two games?
Well, even though you and I might favour rotation, I don't think there'll be much. So I think Liverpool will go for the win.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as they play well, I see no reason why they shouldn't get the win. So maybe something like 2-0. I mean, I don't think that they will try to. I don't think they'll try to run up a score, and I don't think it's the opposition that will allow them to do that. But if they get goals, then I don't think that they'll go into overdrive. I think that they'll see the game out.
Yeah,
Ipswich is a game that Liverpool should win, and especially since Manchester City went to Portman Road and they put 6 past them. So yeah, everybody will be expecting them to win, and they should win. Now they've just got to go and do it, and if they put up a reasonable performance, yeah, they can win 2 or 3-0.
Yeah, I like both those predictions. I think the main thing that is encouraging to me from a standpoint of us having our defense intact and humming is Konate. Konate, I think, is that piece. That's why people are talking about potentially bringing another center back, because Konate does get injured here and there, but I think he is the linchpin to the defense when it goes from being good to great. I think Konate's
he played well against Brentford.
Yeah, he played really well.
Yeah.
It's Coach, I was thinking about this, and what Konate does is he's almost a sweeper for the right side of the field. So Trent goes, Trent goes up, Trent goes up, and then Konate just kind of sweeps everything that comes over the top, or gets built out and Trent gets caught. So, well, so Coach, I like those predictions. I'm gonna say 2-1 against Lille, and I like the 3-0 call out against Ipswich. So, Coach, when you see the transfer market now in the summer, what we talked about, Kirkes. I mentioned he was 23 in our other podcast. He's actually 21. So I think him left back, he's going to cost probably 40-50 million, I'd assume. Proven commodity, key player to Bournemouth. Not sure, that they won't just let him walk for nothing, or a cheap deal. Anthony Robinson, we've talked about. When you look at right back, is there somebody, an understudy that we could bring in? Understanding that Bradley would probably be first choice there.
I'd have to think about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that left back is more pressing, perhaps, than right back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's partly on the assumption that I think Bradley's a very, very good player. He's a different style to Trent, but yeah, I mean, who are they going to get to replace Trent anyway? Because his skill set is unique for a right fullback.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'd have to think about that one. But I think you're right. I think the left back, they will certainly look to recruit there, and the holding midfielder, I think, is a priority, as we keep saying. Central defender, I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think up top, a lot depends on the obvious one is does Slot want Darwin Núñez or not? And I think the other curveball to do with that is because Diogo Jota gets injured so much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody rates him, but he gets injured a lot. So in a funny way, he might be the one to move on. And then the other one is Diaz, because Barcelona apparently are keen on him, but they don't have the money. So they may sell a couple of players in order to buy Diaz next summer. Who knows?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It always is. Keep your eye on the transfer market. There'll be some stuff happening. However, I wouldn't expect anything from Liverpool unless a right deal pops up, as Coach and I have kind of been discussing. It's just kind of our MO when it comes to this transfer window. Coach, as always, I want to thank you for joining me and your insight. And Liverpool fans, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Would love to have you participate in this, and we want to grow our community with this. So subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. And for those listening on podcast, we appreciate you as well. And please subscribe as well to our audio only podcast. So everybody take care, and we will chat with you next time. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye now.